Welcome back to the Delaware Way. If you've been in the area in Delaware or Philadelphia for any amount of time, you know the Longwood Gardens, and I'd like to introduce you to the executive director of the Longwood Gardens, Paul Redmond. Paul, thank you so much, first of all, for coming here.
Sure.
Let's get a little bit into the history of the Longwood Gardens, because I find it fascinating. I always knew the DuPonts were part of the Longwood Gardens and purchased it. I didn't know the William Penn connection.
Well, that's exactly. I mean, it's the history that most people are familiar with is affiliated with Pierre and Alice DuPont. Pierre DuPont created the modern-day DuPont company, but it actually predates him by well over 100 years. William Penn, of course, owned most of Pennsylvania in this area at one point. Then a Quaker family purchased the property from William Penn. The name of the family were Pierces. And so it was actually the Pierce family that began creating an arboretum in the 1700s. And it became a public gathering place then. And you jump forward all the way to 1906, that's when Pierre DuPont purchased it to save those very trees that the Pierce family began planting in the 1700s.
I told you my family loves to go to the Longwood Gardens, and I'm certain we haven't seen all of it. For anybody who hasn't made the trip to the Longwood Gardens, tell them what to expect.
Well, first of all, we think it's one of the great gardens of the world, and we also like to think, and the experience that we're providing is that it's a world apart from all others. And so we're not bashful about our beauty at Longwood. And we want people to come to our gardens and to kind of put all the stresses, all the things that they're facing every day, or even the technology that's in their hand every day, come to Longwood and just be immersed in our beautiful gardens. So we have 1,100 acres in totality. Our guests have access to over 400 acres. And many of the gardens date back to our founder, Pierre DuPont, very gardens that he designed, lots of fountains, lots of water. Then, of course, we have one of the largest conservatory structures in North America with over 4 acres of gardens under glass that are available year-round.
Just because of the size and the amount of plants and trees that you have, I would imagine that, is it a center of horticultural research?
It is, and it's a great question because the research program is actually the backbone of all of our innovation and all of our displays. For well over 50 years now, actually close to 60 years, we have had a very active plant exploration program. So the best way to think about it is that we have these Indiana Jones type of staff, and they're traveling around the world and looking for new and different plants, and they're bringing them back to Longwood Gardens for us to do research on and to first and foremost place on display for the community to enjoy. And sometimes there's one that has commercial significance, and we'll introduce that into the commercial market.
Who pays for all this?
That's a good question. We're really very fortunate from the vision of our founder, Pierre DuPont. And I think that most people from Delaware know of the generosity of Pierre DuPont and the Longwood Foundation. And so Longwood Gardens is no different. We're the sole beneficiary of Mr. DuPont's vision, and he saw to it that we would have the resources to provide these beautiful gardens for everyone to enjoy.
It was very important to him to leave it open to the public.
It was his dream from the very beginning that Longwood would be open 365 days a year. And as a young man, he actually lived in Philadelphia for a while. And the story goes is that he would walk by this mansion in downtown Philadelphia every day, and they had a beautiful conservatory behind a brick wall. And he couldn't get to it, and he wanted to go into that beautiful garden. And the story goes is that from that moment on, he swore that someday he would have his own garden that would be open to the public every day of the year.
Compare this to the Philadelphia Flower Show. And the reason I'm saying that is because the Philadelphia Flower Show gets so much publicity and gets such big crowds for such a short amount of time. And I've always looked at that and said, wait a second, if you drive up the street, these plants and flowers and trees are there all year round. Is that fair?
Well, it is a fair comparison, and the Philadelphia Flower Show is world-class, and it is a great asset and resource for our community. The difference is that our flower show, and I wouldn't even know if I would describe what we do at Longwood as a
well, it's a little bit of a show. I get the difference.
It is a flower show, but it is a horticultural display that is there 365 365 days a year for everyone to enjoy.
Peter, I'm trying to get you crowds. I'm trying to tell the flower show people that they can take a ride up. And
well, they absolutely should, but the flower show does a great job. But come out and see what we're doing.
Yeah, no,
you threw me on that one.
I know. I'm sorry. It's pretty amazing, but I've always been struck by that at the crowds and the publicity.
But you know, we're the most visited public garden in North America. So we have over 1 million guests, and actually this last year we had close to 1.2 million visitors.
So you're telling me they're already coming there?
And we of course would like for more people to come. But
now tell me some of the things. Look, my family, we've been going all my life, and my family comes usually around Christmas time. And is that when you get your biggest crowds?
It is by far our most popular season. But we've been doing a lot of really creative programming the rest of the year, from the winter, spring, fall, that is really bringing in people year-round now.
So what do you have now?
Well, we are actually in the process of taking down our holiday display, and our winter season is all about orchids. And so our conservatory structure will be filled with thousands of orchids. It's an orchid display like none other in North America. And then following orchids in the spring are our spring flowering tulips and bulbs. The gardens will have close to 300 flowering tulips and hyacinths.
Wow! So if you were really into flowers, that's a place to go. So I read something else. You have more trees displayed there than anywhere else in the world?
We have a lot of historic trees. There are other arboreta in North America and around the world that I know that have more, but we have a very fine collection.
I meant types of trees. I'm sorry, I didn't mean the amount of trees. I meant different types of trees.
We have a big diversity of trees there, but and we collect trees from different parts of the world. And our most important ones are the historic trees, actually, that the Pierce family planted. So we have what are called state champions or legacy trees that are of note.
When we come back, I want to spend a couple of more minutes, if you don't mind. When we come back, I did this research, and I found out a few things that I didn't know about, and it's going to take me out to the Longwood Gardens, and it may take you out there as well when we come back with the executive director of the Longwood Gardens on the Delaware Way in just a moment.